Resolute. Stories of becoming, building, and balancing entrepreneurship from people closer to your climb. Good morning, Julia. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Why is Pilates so trendy right now?
It certainly is trendy at the moment, but it's, as I always say, it's an old movement form, over 80 years. It's been slowly trending more now, I think, because, well, after COVID, I'm sure after that it peaked. And I'm sure social media and the fact that many celebrities, athletes are doing Pilates, it sure has an impact.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like everywhere I look on Instagram, all I see is Pilates.
Yeah,
and just
probably our algorithm as well.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive right into your early childhood. What was that like for you?
Definitely not boring. We moved abroad when I was quite young already, I think 6 years old. My mom made a huge career in the paper industry as a project manager. Also at that time, one of the only women in the industry. So huge thing for her. So we moved abroad to Germany when I was 6. We lived there for a few years, came back after, and then moved to France again. And then she continued moving, and I kind of wanted to stay in Finland when I was a teenager. But very international. Lots of travels, lots of arts from my family. Exciting.
What role did that art play in your family life?
Oh, huge. I spent a lot of my time here in Finland at the backstage of theaters because of my aunt and uncle and my grandmother. She was an actress and a freelancer in all sorts of things in media. So I felt like I was always in some kind of theater environment or at the backstage or in a filming scene.
Yeah.
With my family. We went a lot to theaters and concerts, and so art was always there.
A big part.
Yeah.
Is that something you pursued for education as well?
It was, yeah. I didn't really see that there was any other option. I always thought that, of course, I'll be in the theater as well. So that's all I did in my kind of early teens and teenage years. I went to this kind of like theater school when I was young and worked in the theater selling roses, so I could just be there. I did that when I was, I think, 13, 14. So just to be able to see even half of the theater show for the 10th time.
Yeah.
I got a role in a TV series. So I did a lot of acting. I did a lot of movement and dancing, and I played the violin as I was younger. Super creative in all fields. Yeah.
Wow. And when you pursued then kind of higher education, was that still the line you went for?
It was. I went on to study acting and then movement and dancing, and then I ended up in Germany studying contemporary dance.
Okay.
Yep, and that was in my early 20s.
Was that something you wanted to be a dancer?
I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to be, and I don't think I had I always had a goal with whatever I was doing, but I don't think it was exactly a dancer. I just wanted to be. I just wanted to create. And looking back, I think also the feedback I often got from my teachers, like, hey, great, but you should actually be directing. Like, I always had that vision, and I always had that bigger kind of, I think I was a project manager like my mom, but just from the creative side.
Yeah.
So that was something I always did. I was also, my mom said that I was always organizing my little brother's birthday parties, and I had a list what to do, and I was delegating things like, you get this or you get that. So I think I was always like creating something. So
like putting a bigger vision to life.
For sure, yeah.
I love that. What kind of exposure did you have to entrepreneurship growing up?
Well, as I said, my grandmother, she worked as a freelancer. She was a journalist, and she worked in the TV a lot, and she was an actress as well. My dad was an entrepreneur. When I was young, he had a production firm with his brother. So there was a lot of that. And I never even questioned it. I thought it was just the norm.
Right. What drew you then specifically to Pilates?
Definitely through my movement studies. I think I'd done my first Pilates class as I was 13, but I didn't necessarily like it so much.
Yeah.
And I ended up moving up to Australia. So I went there to study mat Pilates.
Okay.
Still not sure if I wanted to teach it, but just to, pursue something and take a little kind of like a gap year, but also study something at the same time. But I really loved it. And I moved back home to Finland after a year. I taught probably 20 math classes around the city, just running around like a crazy person. But then I realized that I want to deepen my knowledge. So I moved back to Australia to study with all the machines. So the whole comprehensive course.
How old were you at that time?
25, 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where in Australia did you end up in?
I was in Sydney.
Okay.
On the East Coast the whole time. So Sydney and then up the coast, I was in the Byron Bay area for most of the time. Yeah.
I've heard it's super creative and kind of a big business art, like entrepreneur art vibe. Is that true?
It is true. Yeah. Very, very inspiring. Yeah.
What was life like there? Like, what was your day to day?
Oh, well, I was always studying. I was there in a student visa, so I was studying. At the same time, I was studying surfing.
Ooh, okay, fun.
Yeah, I taught a lot. I was teaching a lot. So I was always working really early hours. The first classes were sometimes at 5 a.m., which is crazy.
They're really morning people there, aren't they?
They are. Everything happens in the morning. You go to a coffee shop at 6 a.m. and it's like people are mingling. It's like a cocktail party and, you know. So that happens in the morning. So that was a very different lifestyle than here. Really nice. I loved it. Very different. Yeah.
What were some of the key differences if you compare Finnish entrepreneurship culture to Australian? What were like some of the big things that stood out?
Well, yeah, Australia's such a big country, and I just actually explored the East Coast, which is like life on the coast is for sure different than other places. But around where I lived, I felt people just had projects and they were creative, and it was just something that was supported, I felt.
Was success differently treated there?
I have a feeling yes. And if someone was successful, then you'd be like, hey, good on you.
Right, cheering you on.
What's your secret? I want to do it, sort of thing.
Australia, I feel like the brands I've been exposed to are really lively and bubbly. What were some of the brands and like businesses you were surrounded by that you looked up to?
Well, amazing cafes for sure to start with.
That's a good scene.
Yeah. Clothing brands. Of course, where I live, surf brands were amazing. I loved all the kind of different brands there. But yeah, a lot of clothing brands that I still follow.
They do that well.
Yeah.
I think they have a knack for kind of integrating the lifestyle and the vibe into whatever the products are.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. So you spent a total of 7 years down under?
Yeah, 7 minus like part of the time I was here teaching those math classes, but I kind of feel like I was still there. I was kind of like here with one foot and one foot was still there. So yeah, I was always thinking
what brought you back?
I was a bit over 30 and I felt that I just started missing Europe in a way. Like I felt like, okay, I've gotten everything I have from here. And I always felt also that I didn't feel rooted there, which is fine when you're young. But then I felt that, parents are getting older and these kind of things. So I just wanted to come back and see how I felt here. And of course it was, June, so I felt good.
Yeah, I have some personal experience on that because I lived 5 years in Florida. I mean, talk about paradise as well. And speaking from my own experience, coming back was extremely difficult. Yeah. How was that experience for you?
Actually, it was really good. It was really good. Well, it was June. Yeah. So my visa ended in March and I was like, I'm not going to come back in March. So I went to Indonesia to Bali for a few months or 2 months or so. Just kind of to have a little space in between, also to reflect on what I actually want. So I was there most of the time alone. So yeah, really good. I mean, Helsinki was showing its best. I also, I was just loving being back here. It was really good.
Let's talk a little bit about your trip to Bali because, we see so much on social media that's like the, digital nomad's dream or the entrepreneur's dream. What was that like?
Yeah, it was never kind of a dream to go there, but then I realized that, hey, that's probably the best place to go if I'm not able to work in Australia and I don't want to go to Finland, like why not? So I went there and I spent a lot of time in Ubud. It was more like, for me, it was more like a spiritual time there. I had and I still have like a good meditation practice, a solid practice. So it was really good. I think I was also quite tired and burnt out by the time I went there. So I just did like yin classes, restorative classes. I walked, I ate really good nourishing food and I meditated. So that was like my thing. Yeah. But definitely also very creative. Yeah. Depending on where, Canggu was a bit like Byron Bay where I lived. Yeah. So again, really creative and entrepreneurial and yeah, it was good to be there alone and just, I made a lot of contacts and yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important at some point in your life when you're kind of at the, not necessarily almost at the burnout stage, but you need a turning point. You need to pivot and like take that time for yourself and reflect. And how important was it to do that alone?
So important. One of the best times in my life when I reflect back, and something that probably won't ever happen again necessarily until maybe after I retire, if I ever retire. We'll see.
Who knows?
It was really good. I just woke up in the morning, I was like, I don't have to talk to anyone.
I love that.
I was like, I was your friend. I don't have to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I was reading a book in the mornings and drinking tea and just, walking, doing whatever I wanted and not having to. Pilates is you give a lot. You're always with people, you give a lot. And I love it, but then to a certain extent. So I think I was just really ready for that. So it was really important for me to do that and also reflect on what is it that I want next? What is the next phase of my life? And I think without that, I probably would not have had such a good experience coming back here. I think I would have been a bit more tired and drained and not really open for the experience of coming back here.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you came back around 2017. What was the wellness scene like here in Finland at that time?
Definitely a big contrast to what it was in Australia.
Okay, why?
Yeah, well, to begin with, when people, so what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a Pilates teacher. Oh, so is that like stretching and breathing or it's like yoga? And I was like, it's not, no, it's, so you had to really explain what it is. It didn't have a really good, at least with people my age, it didn't have a really good reputation. So a lot of explanation of what it is, what I'm doing. In Australia, Pilates is actually like a real career. Like you have studios everywhere and...
you had to justify yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so definitely different. Yoga was big.
Yeah.
I do yoga. Yoga was big, but other than that, quite different to what it is now.
You had obviously a big art background and a knack for creating things. What was your vision like then that you wanted to build a studio?
So that was never my dream.
Okay.
Yeah. People have asked me, so are you going to open your studio? What do you want to do? I was like, no, I'm just not interested in that. I want to move and teach movement. And so it was never my dream as such. Also, I studied art. I studied, arts in Byron. So I was kind of like drawn to still creating things, but not in a business way.
Yeah.
But then coming here, I was like, okay, so if I stay here, what am I going to do? There were no studios where I felt that I wanted to go to, or like, I went as a client and really enjoyed them, but not to work there. And I felt that they didn't resonate with my style of teaching. So I started thinking like, if I stay here, I'll probably have to create my own place and space to teach. So that's kind of where it started from. Mm-hmm. That was a vision, and the vision was definitely then to bring a part of what I had in Australia to bring it here.
Right. Yeah. And that was the birth of Bay Studios. I'm assuming the name also comes from Byron Bay a little bit.
It does, yeah. Partly because Byron Bay is very communal. Like once you get into the local community, I think I got into it through Pilates. I was teaching locals. So I felt very like a big part of that community. And I felt that here I didn't have that. And I always felt a little bit alone here, even though I have friends, but not a big group of friends. And I also never studied here. So I never had that kind of group here. So I did feel a little bit alone, a bit of an outsider. So I felt like I wanted to... The thing was even more than just bringing like Pilates and well-being. It was just a community. So Bay for me was already like I wanted to build a community.
I love that. Yeah. For me, the experience was very similar. Living in the U.S., which is in the same sense quite communal. And I came here, and obviously I studied in the States, so I didn't have like school friends here. And I quite quickly realized that you're quite alone in your activities and thoughts, especially as an entrepreneur. And I don't know why. Maybe we're getting a little bit better with the community aspect, but I think that's something that Finns are really, really need to do a better job at.
I agree. Yeah, we're used to doing things alone and not very open for new people joining your group.
Yeah, for sure. Talk us through the process of like getting your first studio open and getting that all set up.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really have experience, but I got help from around me, and my dad was a huge help as well. Business plan.
You had one?
I had a business plan. I wrote it out. I filled the forms to get the startup grant and everything. And so it slowly went on from there. I found a good space, really cool space in Katanokka. And slowly from there, I didn't have a huge vision of what the brand is, but I worked with a really cool graphic designer, Toni Erapuro. So he was with me creating the design and everything. So I wanted to be something that would attract people who don't necessarily go to yoga or Pilates yet. That it's something different, and that didn't exist back then.
Right.
We didn't really have boutique studios, and we had gyms and we had Pilates studios for sure, and amazing studios and teachers, but they didn't necessarily resonate to the younger crowd. So I wanted the design and the brand to kind of be more attractive to that.
Yeah. I think, was it more on the rehab side then?
More on the rehab side, yeah.
What was the decision behind the location, the vibe that you wanted to go with?
The location was kind of a coincidence. My brother was living just around the corner, and I'm actually from Katanok originally, or from Kruunuhaka, so we lived there as a kid. And I was always having a morning coffee at the cafe downstairs, as you do when you come from Australia. You always go somewhere for coffee, you never make it at home. So I was there, and I was kind of on my laptop, like thinking about what to do, and I was like, okay, this is actually a really cool building. And then I noticed there's a space free, and it all went from there. It just all clicked.
I love it.
Yeah.
What kind of team did you want to build? What were kind of some of the first hires, and what were you looking for?
The model was a bit different. There we have two spaces. So originally I was renting the back space for yoga teachers for mat classes, and we only had reformer in the front space. So some of the teachers were renting the space for mat classes. But I think I was already looking for people who want to be a part of a community.
Yeah.
And for me also as a teacher, I always felt, even though I've worked in amazing studios in Australia and here in Finland as well when I was teaching mat class, but I always felt a bit alone. You're surrounded with people, you're teaching, but you don't have the community of colleagues.
Yeah, your peers.
Yeah, and it's so important. I always felt a bit alone with that as well, and it was a bit draining. You go and you talk to people, but you have this role of being a teacher and they're your clients. So I wanted to create a team where we actually do things together, where we feel that we are a part of something, and where we really take care of our team. So that was my first idea that I wanted for myself. So it's kind of a selfish idea that I wanted a team around me. So I started finding like slowly people who were, expats who had done a reformer training somewhere, or, weren't necessarily teaching, they were just doing classes. Like, okay, do you want to teach? I was like, well, actually, why not? So slowly there, but definitely the challenge in the beginning was that we didn't have teachers. There are teachers here again, but more rehabilitation based.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they even found the way we want to teach, good for them, like a good fit. So it was really challenging in the beginning to find teachers. So I was teaching a lot myself.
Yeah. So very actively involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
You said that you were kind of trying to attract a new market, or at least offer a service that wasn't available before here in Helsinki. What were some of the key marketing tactics that you used to gain awareness?
Then it was social media. And I think when I look back, social media brands in Finland, Helsinki, were doing social media. It was kind of very new still, even it's just 7 years ago. It feels like such a short time, but it was still different. And I remember some PR agencies contacting me like, hey, can you explain to us how are you doing your social media? And I was like, well, I'm just posting
stuff
pictures and trying to create a good atmosphere. And I think I got a lot of inspiration from Australia again, because they were big on that, bigger already than here. I think everything comes here a bit late.
Yeah.
So I think it just felt natural for me to do it, seeing what was done in Australia. So of course soon it began here as well, the same. But social media was big first.
Huge part.
Yeah.
As you built Base Studios, how did you prioritize different types of growth? Obviously, the brand was big. You wanted to create something, had an amazing graphic designer and the culture. What was then your focus culture compared to revenue and like actually growing the business?
Well, it was challenging in the beginning because I was teaching so much, and I realized that there's no time or energy to do anything else except teach these 25 classes a week. And try to do stuff in the evening, and I was actually pretty tired. Yeah, I was burning the candle, but slowly my partner came along because he was there, and was like, oh, how about I do this and I help you with that, and slowly he we own the company together now, 50-50. So he started helping out with the things that I just did not have time to, and to slowly grow the business. So
what kind of competencies did he bring compared to you, and how were you kind of complementing each other?
Yeah, I always say that I'm the big brush and he's the little brush.
I love that reference.
He's firstly, he's a bit more tech savvy than I am, but he also has more patience with those things. So he's been doing a lot of the technical things at the background. He's not a Pilates person at all. Moves,
probably helps too, having someone who's super objective.
Absolutely. And so I got to start really concentrating on our instructors and the classes and what has to happen within the studio with the people and clients. So I got to really do the thing that I'm good on. Yeah.
That helps. COVID obviously threw a major curveball into your business and you went into online classes. Is that still part of your service offering?
It is now. After that, we took a pause. It was actually quite interesting how well that started. We had classes with 300 people in it sometimes. It was really good. But after that, we were filming in our studio. So, of course, when we started our classes again, we needed that space and we couldn't continue filming there. Also, it wasn't ideal. It was not, a filming set. It was just a studio. So it took a while, but people kept asking for those classes. And online classes began, getting big. We have a lot of those at the moment around. So we started thinking of how could we actually do this in another way. So we did. We took a long time. We organized a space and hired a design agency to create the filming space for us and so on. So we launched it 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago almost. Yeah. So now we do have it. So it's on the side, but it took a while in between that.
To get it set up the way you want it.
Yeah.
I think there's so much competition in the online workout space. How are you standing out to your clients?
Oh, good question. Anything we really do is that and the reason why we didn't do it right away was that we really wanted to do it well. So quality. So quality is the number one thing with everything. And so it was also with this online platform. I would say the quality, starting from the visual, the music at the background, we edit those videos. So the quality, definitely, you have all kinds of online classes where the classes are amazing, but then the quality is maybe lacking.
Yeah.
At the moment, I teach the class as well. So it's a lot of those clients. We still have so many people who have been clients of ours but moved abroad and they still do the class because they want to be a part of the community. So I feel that community is now branching out to the online space as well.
It's another way for people to stay engaged.
Yeah.
What are some of the other activities that you are using to engage the community here, either in person or those abroad?
For us at the moment, I said social media was big back then, but at the moment...
Even bigger now.
Yeah, it's bigger now. But for us, we actually don't put so much effort into social media at the moment.
Okay.
Which is different from many companies. Our classes are super full at the moment. We are putting our efforts into other aspects at the moment to really, make our business even better and keep working on the products. So word of mouth is huge at the moment. People do share. They come to the studio, they share, and that's probably what makes it effective.
For sure.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about the culture also amongst your teachers and the staff that you work with. What are some of the differences or different things that you wanted to implement into your studio versus, for example, the ones you worked at in Australia?
Well, it is definitely, we want to take care of the team. I feel like I'm a personal friend with all of them. We have about 15 teachers at the moment and we're growing. Things we do, we organize a lot of team days, afternoons. I communicate with them daily. I'm always, there. Yeah. They can reach me every day. I think taking care of the team is so important and feeling
the compensation model was also different, right?
Yeah, the compensation model, they work as sole entrepreneurs. Yeah. And we also do pay them quite well so that I've worked in studios where I didn't get paid so well and the end situation was that I got burned out. So you have to teach so much that, it's not going to be helpful for the studio or anyone. Then you don't teach anymore at all.
Yeah, you have to make it worth their while.
Exactly. And, teachers put a lot of time and effort into their studies and they keep studying and, doing workshops. So we want to compensate that. And it's not just the hour that you teach, but it's the time before and after as well.
Yeah, I think that's such an underestimated thing that, especially with Pilates, there's so many courses and kind of additional trainings that you can take on that don't necessarily show to the client because all they see is that one lesson they go to. Exactly. But there's 100 hours outside of that go into the effort.
Yeah, the class is the tip of the iceberg of everything that they've done so far and that what they keep doing. Yeah.
For sure. What are some of the ways that you've learned from your students or the actual clients that come to your class? What are some of the feedbacks that have surprised you, for example?
Well, it's not a surprise, but I love every time someone says that, they come here for the community. That Pilates is maybe not even the reason in the end. Of course, Pilates is the reason, but that they end up staying because of the community. So,
they come for the Pilates and stay for the community.
Exactly. So that I love it every time someone says that they've never enjoyed any kind of movement, but then they come to a reformer class and they're hooked. That's so good. That's exactly why we're doing this, to get people moving and feeling good.
You then went on to open up a new flagship studio. What was the planning like for that? How long did it take?
Yeah, it took a while. Again, we wanted everything to be perfect. The quality, the space. It took a while to find a design agency that we wanted to work with. We wanted to create something different. So that took a while. And then also some of the renovation work were over summer. No one works here in summer. So it took a long time. There were a few things, but it took a long time. But again, the quality was the number one thing that we wanted to focus on. As a business owner, what were some of the things that you wanted to accomplish to justify the expansion, both financially and operationally? Well, we wanted to firstly make sure that the first space that we have, that it is actually full, that the capacity is, used.
At max.
Yeah. That was the first. I mean, I would have wanted to open it a long time ago, because it is a creative process to open a studio. Once you've opened the studio, it's not so creative anymore. It's like, it's hard work, but it's not so creative in the artistic sense necessarily, or visually. So I was always wanting to do that, but having to kind of always take a step back and say like, okay, it's not the right time. For sure, the pandemic also took it forward a few years or a couple of years. I know you had a big mood board for the new space. What was on it and where did you find inspiration for it? Yeah, well, I travel a lot. So we wanted to create something different that's not out there yet. We weren't really looking at Pinterest so much, because if you look at Pinterest, it's usually kind of like what people are already doing. So you end up doing the exact same thing. So we wanted something different. So just getting inspiration from travels to, Copenhagen and New York and Paris, and seeing and really looking at other things than, Pilates studios or wellness centers. We're looking a lot at fashion. And so this agency, Stamuli, that we work with, they actually haven't done any fitness projects yet, just fashion mostly. So that was kind of their approach, and that's what we wanted, something different that doesn't exist yet in this field. During the launch, you also underwent some brand identity changes. What were you doing at that time? Yeah, so already before, when we launched the online platform, the name was before Bay Helsinki, so we changed it to Bay Studios to open it into the multiple possibility locations. Of expanding. Yeah. So that changed. We changed the font a little bit, and the website was a bit of everything. So we just took a new approach. That felt like the right time. Yeah. Can you run through some of the things, how you launched the space to new clients? Like what did you do to inform your current students, and then of course the market about it? Well, the good thing is, because we weren't opening in a new city or a new country, it's the same city. So the word of mouth component was big again, and actually bigger than we thought. And we opened the schedule already long before the actual studio opened, so we could see like how does it start filling up. And we didn't actually have to do a lot of marketing, social media again through there, but not a huge marketing tactic this time. It started filling up on itself. For sure. I think one of the cool things about the new studio is that with the design team that actually created the space, everything is kind of Instagrammable. Yeah. So whatever you look at, or like you look at through your phone camera lens, is like you just want to take a picture and post it. And I think as far as I've seen, that's been one of the best ways to kind of get exposure to the studio. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There's so many things we can be doing as a business owner. How are you navigating the challenging decisions of figuring out what's worth your time and money? Challenging. I've learned to say no, which is so hard. You just want to do things, and people offer all these kind of really cool ideas and things and collaborations, but just saying no to things that actually don't serve you at this moment. It's really hard, but really simplifying things. It's been a huge learning curve, and something that I'm still working with. Do you do collaborations? Here and there. Personally, not so much. And with the studio, I mean, sometimes with brands, but Not so much at the moment. Our schedule is so full and we just really want to serve our clients. So, canceling classes to have a huge event is not the priority at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't kind of takes away from the primary purpose of your business.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've had to unlearn as a business owner, aside from saying no or learning to say no?
Yeah, I think as a person, I get really enthusiastic and I'm kind of like this very... Yeah, I have a big FOMO. And if I feel like, hey, we need to do this now, sometimes it's too soon. I just need to chill a little bit and say, okay, there's time and I won't lose this opportunity. So I think that I need to really just breathe and sit back and not rush into things. So that's been my big thing, is just to, wait patiently and trust that things have their own time. Even with opening the new studio, could have happened before, but this was the perfect time now. Yeah.
Is your partner someone you use as sounding board to kind of bounce off ideas, or do you have someone else in the team that you turn to?
Mostly him. Yeah. We share the same vision, so definitely. And he's often also the one saying, like, hey, let's wait a little bit.
Are you a person who gets more excited kind of about the new things? And you said you have big FOMO, but are you also big into routines? Is that a big part of your life?
In my personal life, yes. Yeah, I'm big into that. Yeah, I have to have the same breakfast.
Really? Okay, what is your breakfast?
I have 3 or 4 eggs in the morning.
Okay, I love it.
And
Me
coffee.
too.
Yeah, so if I don't have that, I feel like a whole day will kind of go downhill.
I love that.
I have to do some sort of movement every day. I can't not move, even if I'm tired, just stretching. But I just feel like those two things, then I'll sleep better. If I sleep better, then, it's a cycle. So I'm so aware of that. So those are things that I won't negotiate about.
For sure. What part of building base studios in the community that you've also managed to bring were you most unprepared for, and how did you adapt?
I think initially the amount of work it takes, I was thinking that I can just teach a little bit and do things, but, it's hard. You don't end up teaching that much. I don't teach at the moment myself almost at all.
Okay. Are you sad about that?
In some ways, yes. In some ways also, I get so much pleasure out of, seeing our teachers thrive and helping them. We have also a teacher training program that we've been running since COVID. So I really enjoy that. And I love being able to help the teachers and be there for them so that they can actually then, give that and transfer to the clients and the classes. I do miss teaching and I cover sometimes, and it's so nice. I love it. It's so great to see, clients from, 2017 still in the classes, and then new clients as well, and see the community grow. I don't miss necessarily teaching so much, but I do miss, being able to, deepen my Pilates practice from the sense of teaching. I teach some privates and, of course, the online classes. So there is that. It was always a question of teaching, but then also having to do all the other stuff. And I think that was draining, going from teaching mode to then doing something else and then back to teaching.
You have to wear a lot of hats.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and change quickly.
Yeah. You have a really international roster of teachers. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think we're just attracting a lot of those international people who you also necessarily don't have a huge community here. And I think people do feel it there. teachers, they've become friends together and they become friends with clients, and clients get to know each other. So it's exactly how I visioned it. It's even more. We just attract international people. We're an English-speaking studio, so everything's in English. So already that makes a big difference.
Have you had any pushback from the market?
No, not really. Yeah, no, yeah.
It's been well taken.
Yeah, it's been well taken. It's been good. I think also the clientele that we attract, they're also the kind that also speak English and they don't really mind necessarily.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think it's a refreshing breath of fresh air to go to a class that's in English here and kind of gives you a little bit of a place to share that kind of international community with others.
And many say that they don't feel that it's because of them that we teach in English, that we don't say in the beginning of the class, hey, who is there anyone who doesn't speak Finnish? Okay, then I'll teach. It's
you don't make it a thing.
No, it's a default. Yeah, so no one feels that because of them, it's in English.
Absolutely. Is this your dream career?
I don't know what my dream career was. I was always super goal and oriented. I never really had a clear vision if there's like one thing that I want to do. And I still sometimes feel like, hey, what am I going to do when I grow up? I don't know. I'm still in that. So, but I think it keeps things fresh rather than like stagnant. Like, okay, this is it now. This is what I'm going to do. But I have an open mind. And also, I think that what I do, it's like I don't even know what I do. I do a million things.
I think that's the reality of any small business owner.
Yeah.
How do you measure success today?
I measure I definitely not numbers. Definitely not numbers. It's, do I feel good? Most of the time, yes. Sometimes, of course, as an entrepreneur, you have the times when you just have to do things. You're tired. But, if our team is happy and if our clients are happy, if they're healthy and happy and they're thriving, then I think that's success.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, with any business, you have to turn to your clients and see, are you actually, aiding their issues or solving their problems and giving an experience that stands out? And is your team firstly growing and thriving? I think that says a lot.
Exactly. My main thing is that everyone's happy. Everyone who comes to the space is just like happy. It's like inviting them to your home. You don't want anyone to be in your home and miserable. So you want to do everything you can to make them feel at home. So that's kind of my approach.
What are some of the things that you've done to actually create that atmosphere?
Well, definitely, firstly, hiring the right people who I see that will get along together and who I get along with. Yeah. So it's like a big group of, friends working together. So that's definitely that first. Just, communication. It's communicating, being open, talking, having difficult conversations and being there for them. I think that's really important, and allowing people to be as they are, and also being as I am to them.
Yeah, I think that's so important, giving space to those entrepreneurs who work for you or work with you to show up as they are. And then I think that's kind of also the cool part. Your students or the people that attend your classes can kind of find the people they vibe with and find the type of atmosphere they want to go to.
Yeah.
What is one of the biggest mistakes you see new entrepreneurs making in the wellness industry?
Maybe some of the same mistakes I did, doing too many things. Of course, it's about trial and error. So you have to try it and see what works. But maybe putting time and effort into the things that actually are not your product.
Yeah.
So, hustling around, doing many things. In Pilates, I always thought that, if I ever open a studio, it would have to be when I'm like really, really, I know what my style is, how I teach. So I don't have to put so much effort into like my own teaching skills. Because the reality is that when you're running a studio, that's the last thing you teach. Yes, but you have to do so many things and put effort and learn new things. So you can't be learning how to teach anymore.
Yeah.
So, following some studios abroad where I know that maybe they haven't been teaching that long. I don't know how they do it. They learn as they go, but it could be, challenging.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good marker for anyone kind of interested in potentially opening up their studio is, maybe first spend those years under someone's wing and figuring out your style and then, creating that space that looks like you.
Absolutely. And how can you give to your team if you're still figuring out the whole industry? So knowing the industry like your back pockets has helped me. Knowing what different styles of Pilates there is, what is your style as a teacher and as a studio, and then being able to be there for the team and support them as well as they grow.
How would you describe the style of Bay?
We're a contemporary studio, for sure. There's a lot of stuff out there these days that it looks like movement. It's great movement. It does good for you, but I wouldn't necessarily call it Pilates. So really, really important that we still teach Pilates, that we know what the fundamentals of Pilates is, that it's always there. There's a function for everything. But definitely we're a creative contemporary studio. We have music in the background, It's not just about coming and, pushing through a workout.
Right.
So it's fun at the same time.
What does the scene, the industry, the market look like today for Pilates?
Well, it's very, it's growing. It's very interesting. There's a lot of, I think there's Pilates for everyone. I wouldn't teach the same class to a 80-year-old person that I teach to a 22-year-old person. So there's something for everyone. So there's a lot of different types of Pilates and there's a lot of different types of movements. I'm sure that there's something for everyone there.
Yeah. It's about finding your fit and what you need.
Yeah, what resonates with you at the moment. Yeah.
You now have over 1,000 attendees per week. That's insane. That's so cool. Do you still have time you said you don't really have time to teach, but how much are you practicing yourself?
I do practice. I go to classes. I have a private every other week. with another teacher. Yeah, definitely I do practice. I do a lot at home. When I teach the online classes, it's also part of my own workout.
Of course.
Yeah. So different types. A lot at home at the moment I have kids at home, so a lot of time spent at home.
Success is not final and failure is not fatal. How are you dealing yourself with setbacks? What's your kind of character?
Oh, I think you just have to deal with them and accept that it's part of it. If I wanted an easier life, I wouldn't be doing this. I would be somewhere where I get a good amount of challenge and can leave it, 8 to 4 job. So I think this is part of it, and the risks and setbacks are part of it, and you just have to deal with it. It's something that is a lifestyle, and definitely the work never leaves you ever. Yeah.
It never stops, I feel like.
There's always something. There's always something to work on, and
And that's kind of part of the growth mindset I think most entrepreneurs have, and they're kind of addicted might be a strong word, but like you kind of love the grind and the building and the creating and always something new.
I really thrive when there's a bit of a chaos around me, when I have to do like I like it. There's a fine line between that and when it goes over again, but I really like it when there's a lot going on. And I actually don't know of anything else. Like I haven't actually had a real job.
Okay.
So, after my studies, I did, the odd job here and there to, finance my studies and the life. But then this has been like I taught Pilates also as an entrepreneur those years, and then Bay has also been. So I've never actually had a job where I was working a corporate, and then I never had to make a decision like, do I leave this and then take the risk?
How are you with authority?
Yeah, good question. Actually, sometimes I do crave it a little bit because here I'm like the only one, like no one actually gives me feedback of how I'm doing. You go through, challenging conversations with, different people and stuff, but no one ever comes to say like, hey, you did really well. Like you have to know it yourself when you do well. So I actually would love there to be some kind of a mentor. Sometimes I've had that, but to have someone to reflect with, to actually say like, hey, you're doing well. Like maybe you could do better here. So
covering your blind spots.
Yeah, but definitely freedom for me has always been, it's been important. So I think that's why I'm here.
How are you managing the competitive drive while also finding time to collaborate with others in your industry?
Yeah, there's more competition all the time. How I see it is that it's a chance for you as a business to also reflect on what it is that you're doing, what is your thing as a business, and then do it even better. So see why clients come to your studio, and not that, studios begin to open or you get competition in any field and you start, doing a bit of this and a bit of that because they're doing it. Like, no, just do your thing and do it super well.
Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane and stay centered with what you're doing. Yeah. I think social media these days also in all areas of life, but with social media, you could always be comparing yourself and seeing like, oh, why are they doing this and are they doing that and, sort of thing. But also being able to like shut that down and like really concentrate on your thing and your business and what you're doing and enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of the process.
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
Yeah.
Are you collaborating with studios outside of Finland as well, or with other Pilates studios owners?
Yeah, I still stay in contact with the ones in Australia, with my colleagues from Australia. Some of them have open businesses. So yeah, for sure. When I travel, I always go and visit new studios, and often then, you make friends with the owners as well and you stay in contact. And here as well in Helsinki, we have a good community of some other studio owners and we can always like chat.
That's nice. It's nice to be able to share your kind of concerns and talk about, this is the reality of the day-to-day life and actually hear some feedback and bounce some ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the end, it's also in some ways I'm now surrounded with a community, but also as a leader, then you do always have that certain amount of like that you do feel a little bit alone in some things. So it's really nice to have that comfort around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Balance isn't something you find, it's something you create. You already talked a little bit about your kind of daily habits, but what are some of the other things that you do, especially from the business side, that keeps you grounded? My
weeks are very different. My days are very different. I try to spend time in the studio, even though I don't teach there so much at the moment, but I try to spend time there. So I'm there with the teachers and I'm trying to give time to them and also, just see what happens, go to classes myself, do a little quality check, like how the class is going and everything. So I do a lot of that. I work in the office. I need to kind of balance also like how much I'm with people and then also like just sitting down quietly and doing my thing. on my laptop.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm a bit of both, I think. Yeah. I don't know. Definitely not an extrovert, but I'm not also like introvert that I can't be with people. I think I thrive when I'm with people, but then I also need my time to
recharge.
Yeah.
Aside from obviously owning a studio and running an increasingly popular business, you're also a mom. How has that experience been balancing the two?
Yeah, interesting. I think with my first child, she's now 4, it was more challenging. You know, the role of a mother was new and we had the pandemic around us at that time as well. So it was definitely more of a challenge and I was navigating, you know, finding my way as a mother and this new role. More challenging. Easier now, you know, I had the role already.
Yeah.
I could just enjoy it more. I also had more tools on how to set boundaries and how to organize my week so that I'm not running around with the baby and, you know, so that I have set days that I'm actually at home and trying to, you know, quiet my phone down. And then also when I'm doing things, then I'm actually doing things. So I have more tools now, but it takes a bit of like organizing an awareness of the fact that you are a mother, there's a baby, you're not sleeping, your brain necessarily isn't working as well as it used to. So admitting that, but there's still things that you have to do, you know, on both sides. So it's not like a question of like, what should I do next? It's like, just take care of everything.
Right.
You know,
you got to find the balance.
Yeah.
Finns are known to do everything themselves. We're kind of that kind of culture. But I'm so into normalizing the fact that we can actually find people to support you on the journey, especially on the motherhood side. What's your take? You grew up with a very career-driven mom. Mm-hmm. What kind of example did you have?
Yeah, good. She was working a lot. As I said, we moved abroad because of her work and so on. We always had an au pair working or living with us. For me as a child, it worked out well. Yeah, I never felt that, you know, I would have wanted anything else. It was a good example for me as well, you know, that you can work and be a mother. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you want to focus on now moving forward?
Well, we're always kind of a couple of years ahead on what we're going towards. It's not like we do sporadic decisions here in this moment. So we're already like kind of zooming out to 2 or 3 years further. So already planning ahead and seeing what's possible and then working towards that. For sure, looking forward to the time after summer where I'll be working fully again, concentrating on that. So, yeah, many things. Of course, last year was very hectic with the opening of the business and everything. So, enjoying also that things are running now and always, you know, trying to focus on getting, you know, the class quality better, the experience for the clients and for the team better. So that's what we're really at the moment concentrating on is just the quality of everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to share any of your visions for the future, or what are some of the goals that you've set, for example, for this year?
Well, this year, definitely now working on the quality of the studio, and we are growing. Also, we have a team that is growing. So working a lot on the team and getting everyone on the same page and team building is actually a big goal for this year.
Have you found happiness in what you do?
I have. I really have. And I think it took a while. But at the moment, I'm aware of like what I really enjoy, and I get to do that. Yeah.
You are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. What kind of people are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah, interesting. There's a lot of like this artistic, type around me, but then there's also this very driven entrepreneurial type as well. So I think it's a mix of both, and that really describes me as well. I don't always see myself as a, entrepreneur. I still see myself more as an artist, but definitely also an entrepreneur. So it's a bit of both. So definitely a mix of that.
There's a lot of people who are in the art space and interested in starting their own business. What advice would you have for them?
Go for it. I don't know if there's a deep vision or something that's burning inside you that you want to create, then I think it's a matter of doing it, finding the right people to do it with, finding the strategy, and really asking for help. I think that's sometimes hard for people, is to actually ask for help and ask for people who know more or seek those people. But that's so important. You don't need to know everything, but you need to be able to ask for help. Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's so true. You don't need to take this journey on with the idea that you got to know everything at once, and you can kind of test out the waters and figure out what works for you and what's the business model that works for you.
Yeah.
Is narrowing down your niche, like you said, to a very, very specific segment and type of studio something you'd encourage?
I think it's definitely something that will help if you know what you're doing, you know who you're doing it for, and then you can serve that client base better, keep them. So I always think that, you know, it's rather than like putting all your energy into seeking new clients and growing that way, it's like, who do you have? Why do they come there? Why do they like your business? And then, you know, serve them better.
Yeah.
They will spread out. The word of mouth will, you know, expand. And I think the growth for us, at least, it's been good that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there a mantra or kind of a quote you live by?
Live and let live.
What does that mean for you?
Live. So, you know, however much you're working, just, you know, also enjoy life and do the things that you enjoy. For sure, there are times that you have to do things that you don't enjoy, like, you know, whatever it is with your business. But in general, like if 80% of the things that you do, you actually really enjoy, I think that's, again, success. So live your life and let other people do what they want to do. You know, don't concentrate so much on that. Concentrate on your own life, and you don't need to worry about others, what other people say, or what they think about you, or what are they doing. Just, you know, if you do your thing and you're happy, it doesn't matter. That's the main thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Julia, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.